Yeah, hi, I'm Jerry Aronson. I taught at CU for 34 years, taught photography before that at South Shore High School in Chicago and at Cherry Creek in Denver. I was going to be a psychiatrist, I thought, because that's what my family wanted me to be. And I went to 4 years of college and I decided I liked photography since I was 10 years old and I didn't like anything else. So I tried and I realized, nah. So when I graduated with my first degree, which was a BS or BA or whatever, I decided to go to graduate school in photography. So I moved to Chicago to the Institute of Design, which was a college based on a German school called the Bauhaus, which was the best design school in the world. And when Hitler was coming in, they just decided they wanted to move to Chicago and start over. So the Bauhaus became the Institute of Design, and I got in. And it was the best move of my life because I started doing photography and never stopped. So I was taking still photography, as I said, in Chicago. And it was 1968, and there was this thing called the Democratic Convention going on. It was also a place for protest against the war in Vietnam. And so I realized, if nothing else, it would be an interesting place to take photos, not yet knowing what was actually going on down there in terms of violence, police, or any of that. I had no idea. But there I was, and I was taking photos, and police were everywhere chasing people and clubbing people. And I'm like, oh my God, I don't want to be involved. But I had no choice. I was there. And I was breathing tear gas, and I was coughing. And anyway, at a certain point, I looked up, and there was a policeman above my head, literally above my head, with a club. And I felt this tingling going through my back of my neck, and I'm like, oh God, this is it. I really thought I was going to be killed. At that moment, there was a sound coming through the park. Oh, and I had no idea what that was, but what I did notice was that everybody froze, and there was about maybe that sound made by 500 to 1,000 people, and I thought, this is a good time to run. As I looked up, and the policeman had stopped. He didn't know what it was either. In fact, everything had froze, everything. So, except for me, I said, Jerry, run. Literally talked to myself, run. So I ran towards the Ohm, and I looked back, and the policeman was still there. He hadn't run towards me, and he was looking down, and I wasn't there. And as he came towards me, somebody tripped him, and I just kept running. And I got to the center of the Ohm, which was 500 people maybe sitting around the guy with the beard. I had no idea about any of this, but I figured I want to meet the guy with the beard because I want to thank him. So I walked through the crowd, and everything was cool and everybody was friendly. I got up to the guy with the beard and I go, hi. He goes, hello. And I go, what's your name? He goes, Allen Ginsberg. He goes, what's your name? I go, Jerry Aronson. And he goes, looks at me like, okay, and I said to myself, think of something. So I said, well, I just wanted to thank you for saving my head. And he goes, oh, okay. And that was it, And I thought to myself, Allen Ginsberg, I should look him up somehow. And I walked away, kind of thankful and at the same time puzzled. And I said to myself, someday, somehow, I'm going to repay this guy because I think he may have saved my life. And then I realized it was just time to, move on with my filmmaking, and I decided to go to the land of film, Los Angeles. So I'm driving to Los Angeles, and I heard about Boulder, and I stopped here because I heard it was really a cool place. So I discovered there was a film department at the university. It was just critical studies where they showed movies and talked about them. I showed them some of the short films I'd made in Chicago. They loved them. And they said, well, why don't you, what are you working on? I said, well, I'm editing this film on Native Americans in Chicago right now. And I got to finish it. It's like, I've been filming it for 3 or 4 years, and I want to finish it somewhere, but I got to edit it. And they said, well, why don't you set up an editing station at the university in one of our offices, and let students come in and watch you edit. And that'll be your trade. Turns out there was another school starting called Naropa down the street from the university, a Buddhist university to teach Buddhism and to teach poetry, because by this point I discovered that Allen Ginsberg was a poet. And so they asked him as a fellow learning Buddhism to please come to the school and teach poetry. But around 1977, 78, and I'd already finished my film finally on the Native Americans. And it turned out I got nominated for an Oscar, my first film. It's a half-hour documentary, which was astounding to me. I mean, and I actually went to the Oscars. And in 78 or 9, I went to see some of Alan's poetry readings at Naropa, and it was really fun. And I introduced myself again, finally, and he didn't remember what had happened. How could he? It was like, that was a long time ago, 68 to 78, 10 years. And so much had happened in his life and in my life that it was just, hello, how are you? I explained the situation. He said, well, I'm glad I did that for you. And in 1982, it was the 25th anniversary of another beat writer, Jack Kerouac, who had written a book 25 years earlier called On the Road. And it was a celebration, and Jack had passed away, close friend of Alan's, and the other third party of that group of beats was named William Burroughs, who was a writer of novels. Kerouac was a writer of novels, and Alan was the poet. And so Alan decided to have a 25-year anniversary. And as he said, he was going to invite every hippie, yippie, poet, and anybody else interested coming to Boulder to celebrate that 25-year anniversary. And so I went there as well. And I figured, let's see what's happening. So I brought a 16-millimeter movie camera. Why not? And a tape recorder for sound. That was my whole crew, myself. And then when I got there, there were like 3 other crews. And one was filming a film on Jack Kerouac, because it was, like I said, 25th anniversary. Another was making a film and filming about William Burroughs, who was there, who wrote Naked Lunch and other pretty famous books that have all been turned into films. And then there was a third crew kind of just filming the whole thing. But nobody was filming Alan. And I thought to myself, Alan organized this. They're all friends of Alan's. Alan has done all these things, and nobody's made a movie about him. So I figured, here's my chance. So I walked up to Alan, and I said, can I make a movie about you? And he goes, are you a filmmaker? And I go, oh, yeah. I could have said I was nominated for an Oscar, but I just said, yeah. And he goes, okay, good enough. And I said, well, fantastic. And then he said, we have to sign a contract, And I go, well, great. And in my mind, I'm thinking, lawyers and who knows what this means. So he pulls out a piece of paper from his pack and writes something like, Allen Ginsberg gives Jerry Aronson permission to film and make a movie about his life, Allen Ginsberg, and hands it to me. And I go, that's it? He goes, yeah, that's your contract. I believe you. I go, well, I believe you. Cool. And I started filming right then in 1980. And it just kept going and going and going. And that's how it started.
I saw the best minds of my generation destroyed by madness, starving, hysterical, naked, dragging themselves through the Negro streets at dawn looking for an angry fix. Angel-headed hipsters burning for the ancient heavenly connection to the starry dynamo and the machinery of night.